Good morning, welcome, thanks for joining the Kila Chari Torah Daily Review of Maimonides' 613 Mitzvahs, Taryag Mitzvot, Sefer HaMitzvahs. We are in the middle of the negative commandments, the prohibitions, and we've been talking for the last couple of days, weeks, about various laws which pertain to sacrifices. Of course, at the moment we don't have sacrifices, we don't have a temple up and running in place in Jerusalem. However, we hope that that'll soon be the case, that we will have that. And in the meantime, we study the laws and receive full merit for studying them as if we had actually performed them. And of course, there's much to glean beyond the practical, the spiritual, deeper matters of this. For example, negative commandment number 101. There's a prohibition, the Torah says in Leviticus 22, chapter 28. You should not slaughter the mother animal and her young on the same day. This is seen as a sensitivity towards animals. Maimonides explains in greater detail in Moreh Nevuchim, in the Guide for the Perplexed, that certainly not only does the mother recognize their young, but her young, but of course the young should not be slain in sight of the mother. The prohibition applies to oxen and to lambs, because these are the domestic animals, he points out, that we're allowed to use for food. We learn about this in the 5th chapter of Chulin, and it really opens up a larger conversation about sensitivity to animals. One might think, reading the headlines these days, reading the popular press, that sensitivity to animals and their suffering and the fact that they are sentient beings with feelings and perhaps even thoughts at some level or other, that's some new thing that we've just struck upon, that humanity's advanced to such a point where we can appreciate that. Never mind that we don't necessarily take the feelings of other human beings into account, but that's a separate conversation. Maimonides is writing in the 13th century and talking about laws that were around for 2 millennia before he ever walked the earth. So this idea of sensitivity to animals is something that has been on the Jewish agenda really since the earliest times. That being said, the Torah does give us permission, as this mitzvah indicates, to shech, to slaughter animals for 2 purposes. One is to be used for sacrifices, for offerings in the Mishkan, later on the temple, as a means of bringing ourselves closer to Hashem. Why? Because that's what Hashem asked us to do, not because of any intrinsic worth on the part of the animals or us, just the mere fact that God commanded it makes it a valuable spiritual act, number 1. And number 2, the tractate Chulin has to do with slaughtering for non-consecrated, non-temple use, non-ritual slaughter, in other words, not to be used for offering, sacrifice, and so on. That's when you want to eat a steak. Are you allowed to do that? So Tractate Chulin explains, yes, you are, according to within certain parameters. We have to slaughter the animal with a sensitivity to the notion that we're taking a life, even though the Torah does permit that, and we have to do it in such a way that we cause absolute minimum amount of suffering to the animal, and of course we remove all the blood from it, and even then there are some parts of the animal which it's customary not to eat, because of the difficulty from removing certain forbidden parts of the animal before preparation. So there's a lot to talk about with this. We'll leave it at that for today. Suffice it to say that nothing new under the sun, and a great awareness, mindfulness, and sensitivity thought towards what we're doing in the course of procuring food is not today's headlines, not only today's headlines, we should say, but rather it's deeply written into the Taryag mitzvahs, into the 613 mitzvahs of the Torah, as the Rambam is teaching us. So have a good day, and join us again tomorrow. We will continue our conversation. Have a good day.